Welcome to The Compassionate Mind, your guide to self-compassion and emotional well-being. I'm Ashley Daniel, your host. Join us each week as we explore practical tools and insights to nurture kindness towards ourselves and others. Welcome to the first episode of The Compassionate Mind. My name is Dr. Ashley Daniel. I'm a licensed professional counselor and counselor educator. And I'm so excited to introduce you to this podcast. Hopefully it will be something that is meaningful to your life, that actually impacts you, gives you some new ideas, new thoughts that you haven't had in the past. I know it's another podcast in the sea of podcasts, but I don't think there is ever going to be too much about mental health that helps us grow as people and change. And so I hope that while this is one of many different podcasts, that it actually is something that can bring you joy, that can bring you something new in your world. So I'm excited to bring that to you. As a licensed professional counselor, there's things that I encounter every day that really impacts the way that I see the world. I became a counselor in 2016, and it's kind of wild to think how long ago that was. 2016 was quite a while back. But when I think about when I was a baby counselor and who I am today, a lot has changed. You know, the world has really changed, and I think it's really impacted me to be a counselor. It's changed the way I see the world. It's changed the way I see people. And so I think if I just give you a peephole into that world, into what I have been able to see, I think that could be a wonderful experience. I'm also a counselor educator. I've been teaching since 2021. So it's already been 3 years, which also is wild because, it was during the pandemic. So of course, time just got all squished together. So I think it's just been an amazing experience. But even that too, it's been really impactful because me as a teacher, I see other, new counselors learning to be who they are and learning to be who they are in the world of counseling. And how do you take yourself? How do you take your biases, your interests, all those pieces, and still be able to go and sit in a room and hold space for someone who's going through trauma and stress and anxiety and changing their whole world, and you get to witness that. It's honestly one of the most incredible experiences. And I think something I would love to do through this podcast is to give people insight into what it means to be a human. What are the things that we go through? What are the struggles, and how do we overcome? One of the most powerful things is witnessing. I think as a therapist, we get to witness beautiful, the most amazing things. People pull themselves up from mud and from mire and reconstruct their whole life. And it is maybe one of the most beautiful things I get to witness every day. And then to teach counselors how to do that, to teach counselors how to be that person for people. I think it's one of the most gratifying things. And I want to bring you into that world. So there's going to be topics I might talk about that are spurred from these experiences, from, these, 2016, 2024, 8 years of being a therapist, and these years of being a professor for therapists. What does that bring up for me? And what do I think I could give you that would help change your life, that could help maybe change your life is a big thing, big task, but even just a nugget, right? I think nuggets are so important. These small seeds that we plant in people's lives that can slowly grow over time, and we water them and we see what could happen. And so I am looking forward to sharing these insights. Something I've been a little obsessed about is the power of knowledge, the power of these nuggets and these seeds, because I honestly have been able to see, it might be, it's definitely through teaching, but also through being a therapist. And seeing how small nuggets, they really burst through and can absolutely change the way someone sees themselves and sees the world. And how if I if I just plant one piece of knowledge, something that's just a little bit different from what you've thought your whole life, it honestly breaks through in such an incredible way. It's really hard to explain, but you can imagine it for yourself. Like if someone has just told you something that goes against the grain that you've been following, right? This path you've been following. I was talking to someone recently who was saying that, they just were indoctrinated. Like this is the way the world works, right? For instance, believing, you're supposed to chase money, you're supposed to chase things and monetary things. And he had this aha moment when someone simply said that their world does not revolve around that. Their world does not revolve around monetary gain and trying to get the next thing. And it really, just that one idea, that one concept completely blew his mind. Like, oh, that's a way to live? Like, I don't have to live for the next thing, the next object, the next car, the next, right? And just to have a concept, I could live to serve people, to take care of people, like that idea had never entered his mind before. And of course, that's how knowledge works. Like we get these different pieces and it can just explode the way that we see the world. And so I hope that this podcast can do that, right? Maybe it's just being able to plant this new thought, this new way of being. And how does that change the way we navigate in the world, which would change the decisions we make, which would change the way that we operate. So that's another thing I hope this will accomplish. I also want to introduce you to the idea of why compassion. And compassion seems to be the word that follows me everywhere. It's the word for my company, Compassion and Wellness Counseling Services. It is the word for this podcast, the compassionate mind. And honestly, the word compassion is really powerful to me because I've learned in these 8 years that compassion is an antidote for shame. And shame seems to honestly be the running theme of what I think about, talk about all the time. It's almost under the undercurrent for almost all of my clients. It's the undercurrent for me, even in my own therapy. So I see a therapist, of course. I believe all therapists need to see a therapist. But in my own therapy, that's been the center of my work, has been how to understand the voice of shame, how to recognize it, how to work against it. And it's been really powerful. At the moment, my therapist, I shout her out. She's amazing. The moment my therapist helps me become aware of that so much of my inner dialogue was shame driven. The shame was speaking for me all the time. Anything I did was something to do with that shame yelling at me, the anger just being so inward. And it's because I didn't know how to, for one reason, I didn't know how to express anger outward. Like I couldn't be mad at anyone else. I still can't. That's honestly one of my hardest things is just being upset with someone and how to just be mad. I think that's something, I don't know, maybe some of you might relate to, but being angry at outward is really hard for me. So instead I would be angry inward. So I would take whatever frustration I had, I would turn it into myself. So shame has been such a constant force in my life as long as I can remember. And in the last few years of my own therapy, my own work, have I been able to hear it and be able to talk against it and to say like, this is not real. This is not true. My shame is lying to me. My shame is trying to keep me under. How do I talk against that shame? And one of the most powerful ways to do that is compassion, self-compassion. If I can be compassionate towards myself, if I can understand myself, if I can give myself that self-love, self-compassion, how do I talk to myself? I think it's just turned shame on its head. Where in my own therapy, I've been able to see, like, catch it. I can catch the shame and say, oh, like, that's not my voice. That's my shame, and be able to separate it out. And it's been my own personal work has been really impactful for my professional work. We say as therapists that we can only take our clients as far as we've gone ourselves. And really, that's been true 100% for me. That only when I've been able to do work myself have I been able to take my clients in these spaces that I think as a therapist, I wouldn't have known to even go down, right? Like if I don't even know that this exists, that my client is dealing with this, because I haven't yet explored it within myself, how can I take them there, right? I think there's that piece. There's another piece. If I haven't worked through it, I'll be scared. Like I'll see the client needs to go down this road, but because I'm so afraid of going there myself, because that's what empathy is. Empathy is sitting in a hole with someone. Like I know what that feels like. If my client is going through grief, I have to tap into grief myself. I have to recognize what does grief feel like and be able to reflect that back to them. So with the same thing, if I don't work on something myself, how can I sit in that with my client? I will be uncomfortable. I will feel unsure of myself. I will feel unprepared or unqualified. Like all those thoughts will kind of come up for me. But if I myself walk through it with my own therapist or through my own journey, then when a client brings up something, I can sit with them in that. So getting back to shame, because I could hear it in myself, because I recognize that voice for me, I now am able to hear it with my client. So if my client is in a shame spiral and is just like in that place of real self-hatred, then I can call that out for them and I can label it and say, hey, I'm hearing shame. Tell me what's going on here. And we're able to piece it out and pull it out and work on it. But up until this point, if I didn't see it in myself, I don't think I would have recognized it for them. So that's why the compassionate mind has really centered around that knowledge, is how powerful self-compassion can be. And it can take so many roots, we can see self-compassion in the way we talk to ourselves, in the way we treat ourselves, in the way that what we accept in our lives, how we move in the world. All of it is impacted by how compassionate we are with ourselves. And so in every episode, whether we talk about compassion and shame directly or not, we're going to probably hear elements of that compassion in running through everything. There's other pieces that might come up, all of it still running down to mental health, but some other possible conversations could be ADHD. I have ADHD. I don't know if you already picked up on it in the way that we've been talking. I kind of will go off on a tangent and then come back, and go off on a tangent and then come back. But that is, I think, the beautiful creative mind of someone with ADHD or someone who's neurodivergent. So those concepts, I also identify as someone who is a highly sensitive person, HSP. And these are also the people I tend to work really well with as clients. People who identify as having ADHD and HSP are some of the most common clients I work with. I also will probably have topics about diversity, inclusivity, especially being a South Asian American. There may be topics that relate to that. I have a lot of clients who've seen me who have that identity and what it means to be a first and second generation American. Those topics may come up, definitely will come up, because it's my identity too, and how it shapes mental health. And are South Asians coming for counseling? Are they coming for therapy? Yes, I think they are. Especially in this generation, post-COVID, I think people really realize I cannot escape my mental health. I need my mental health to be in a high optimal level so I can actually address all the other things in my world. So I think definitely talking about mental health with South Asians is going to be a topic. But really, I don't want to limit. It can be anything, and there's so many possibilities when it comes to mental health. But that ultimately is the goal of this podcast, is to help us all learn how to have compassionate minds, how to take care of our minds, how to prioritize that. But I hope that through listening, you will continue to grow and change. And, in future podcasts, we will have people come in who will bring their perspectives, and we'll be able to really see and learn as much as we can. Because I think through developing all these neural pathways, and we can just change the way we think, we can change so many pieces about our lives. So I'm so excited to do this with all of you. And yeah, thank you for being here. I'll talk to you soon. Thanks for joining us. If you enjoyed today's content, tune in for our next episode. Don't forget, subscribe and share with your friends and family. Until next time, stay compassionate.